Welcome to the Steve and Bethany podcast.
It's your weekly dose of hope, encouragement, and a whole lot of fun.
All right, let's get to it.
It's episode 34.
Welcome in, Hope Dealers. We are glad that you're here. It's New Year's Eve.
New Year's Eve.
Yes, we're going to close out 2020 with a bang. I think this episode is going to be so much more than I was expecting it to be because I originally thought, and we'll get into this more as we move on, but I originally thought, okay, everybody has poo-pooed 2020, always had something mad and negative to say about it.
Yeah.
We'll do something fun. We'll do the fun version. What's good about 2020?
Right.
And people will say, oh, it was so good. And, you know, everybody just needs to smile and bear it and get through it and all that. So I threw it out to our folks on Patreon, and those patrons wrote back some powerful stuff.
I'm excited to hear these stories.
These
I think this will be cool.
really good, and it's forced me to think, you got to go deeper, too. You can't just go with the surface fluff stuff. You got to come up with something deeper, too. So we'll get to all that as we move along. Plus, we got another homework assignment for you. You guys have been doing the 5-star reviews for us.
Yes.
And we appreciate that. If you haven't done it, we ask that you do it because it just helps the show out so much to be recommended to others who maybe listen to a similar type podcast.
Right.
And they get through, listen to it, and it's like, oh, here's another suggested podcast for you. So we would love for you to leave us a 5-star review. If you think we've earned it, we would appreciate that so that.
And even if you don't think we've earned it, just still do it.
You know, I didn't want to go there, but that's fine.
I'll go there.
Yeah, so we really do. We really appreciate you guys doing that. And because the overwhelmingly majority of you listen on your Apple devices. So just take a couple of seconds, leave us a review, and that will really, really help us. So please continue to do that this week and help us keep boosting those numbers up as we move along and we get ready for 2021. Hard to believe we're about ready to turn the page on that.
I know. 2020 has been such a weird year because obviously Corona has just thrown so many things out of whack and has made this just a bizarre year. But also it's gone by really quickly. Like it feels like we've been in this year forever.
Right.
But it also feels like it's been a really fast year. And I don't know.
Yeah,
it's
I don't know how
strange.
to handle it.
Yeah. It's just bizarre.
Yeah, it kind of leaves your head swimming a little bit because I think you're right. In a lot of ways, it's like, man, really? It's already December? It's already New Year's Eve? And then we're thinking, life has not been normal for what seems like an eternity.
Yeah, well, and almost the whole year has not been normal. I mean, all for, January and February. But no, it's funny. I saw a meme I don't know, a few weeks ago on Facebook, and it was, do you remember that episode of The Office where Michael is convinced that this insurance salesman is a member of the mob? Do you remember that episode?
Yes.
And they go out for dinner, and he's given all these special instructions of what he wants, and Michael says, if you put, my salad on top of my spaghetti, I'll send it back. He's trying to, appear really tough to this, who he thinks is a mob guy. And the meme was, if 2021 is anything like 2020, I send it back. I'm not doing it. I feel like a lot of people are having that feel of okay, if this next year is anything like this past one, we're in for it.
Oh, I think so. And I think a lot of people conversely have this idea, well, okay, we're going to turn the page magically tonight at midnight.
And it'll be fine.
And it'll be all fine. Well, not necessarily.
Yeah.
So.
I don't think Corona knows what year it is.
No, it doesn't. And so we're going to talk about that. But again, I wanted to focus on kind of the more positive stuff because that's what we do around here, with the Hopecast, right?
It's in the name.
But the stuff that these folks came up with, man, it really made me think there is true, genuine hope in what they wrote. So we'll get to that coming up here in a little bit as we move on through the program.
Before we get there, though, I do want to bring up just a little slice of adorableness that you need in your life.
Okay.
So I brought a video with me today. This is my nephew, Rhett. So Everett's, he's 18 months right now. And he is very curious and he's very food and drink driven. So if anybody is ever sitting down with anything, he wants to investigate and see what you have. So my mom, even at her house, she has pillows that have these little pom-poms on them. He's trying to eat the pom-poms because he thinks that's food. So he's just very driven by all things delicious. Well, a few days ago, I was over at my mom and dad's house, and Everett was over there and was hanging out, and I had a cup of coffee, as I often do. And it was, it had cooled down. I've been sipping on it for a while. I was pretty much done with my cup of coffee. And he comes up to me and is just kind of looking at it. And his mom was sitting right there, and I asked her, I said, hey, is it okay if he has a little sip? just a little something. And she's like, yeah, sure, go ahead. So I gave him a sip of my coffee. And this is the result. So can we roll the tape?
That's him sipping. That's not Bethany drinking the coffee here, just listening.
Did you hear that?
How is that helpful?
Like I said, it's all the sauce.
That's what a lot of them.
He like did this little thing where he just goes,
Yeah.
I couldn't handle it. So that was him trying a little sip of my coffee and loving it.
And slurping it like you slurp yours.
No, I don't slurp mine. I'm a lady. But no, he really did love it. And I only gave him that one sip, but he kept on kind of coming back to me after that. I created a problem.
And of course you had to give him more.
I created a problem for myself. I had to just pour the coffee down the drain. I was done with it.
Well, because see, that's a big deal in your family, coffee. It's not like, the run-of-the-mill coffee from the grocery store. You people invest a lot of time and energy and effort into making a cup of coffee.
Yes. My dad has I think really been the one that kind of kickstarted it. My dad has become like a coffee geek, if that makes sense. So he loves like the science behind it and why different brewing methods work the way that they do and all of this stuff. And if you've listened for any amount of time or listened to us on the radio, you probably know that my husband is not a coffee drinker. And that's been like the biggest hurdle that we've had to overcome in our marriage is that he doesn't drink coffee. And a couple months ago, I was over at my parents' house with Cody, and so we're sitting there. My dad starts making coffee. He gets out 3 mugs for my dad, my mom, and myself because he knows Cody won't drink any. And Cody looked at me and goes, "Hey, can you get me like a half a cup?" And I was like, "Who are you and what have you done with my husband?" I was blown away. And he had I said, "Do you want some cream in it?" He goes, "No, I'll just drink it black." And I was like, "What?" And my dad honestly said, "Write down the date and time because this is a moment in history. He's finally coming over the dark side. Like we're finally winning him over." My dad was really, really proud that day.
I'm sure that he was because I don't know that there's anything that your family takes more seriously than the coffee.
Yeah.
I mean, really.
It's the Lord and coffee.
Well, that's what I mean.
Yeah.
I mean, I really
it's
think.
right here. And then football.
It's like 1 and 1A.
Yeah.
It really is.
And really, this is the thing.
I've never seen anything like it.
You don't drink coffee, and we need to get you on this because I think all you've ever had in your whole life is just terrible coffee. You haven't had really the good stuff, and that's why I think you don't like it is because you've had like folders.
I don't know. I don't know what it is.
You've had bad hotel coffee, and that's what your standard is. That's not what it should taste like.
Okay, but here's what I don't want to have happen.
Yeah.
I don't want to be one of those people because there are those people that they can't function in the morning till they have their first cup of coffee. They're just like zombified. I don't want to get hooked on that.
Well, you're kind of hooked on Diet Coke, aren't you?
Yes, but I can function without a Diet Coke.
You don't get like a headache?
No.
Really?
Really?
Have you ever had a morning where you haven't gotten one?
Yeah, most every morning.
Really?
I don't start drinking Diet Cokes till noon, 1 o'clock.
Okay.
I try to start drinking water.
And here's the thing, I can function without it, but if I don't have coffee by like 2 p.m. in the afternoon, I have a headache.
Yeah, because
And this is the thing though. But this is the thing. I don't know if it's in my head. Like, I don't know if it's a placebo effect of I know I haven't had coffee, so therefore my mind is like, nope, time for a headache. Or if it truly is caffeine withdrawal and I need to cut back.
Yeah, it's probably
either way, I'm not going to stop drinking it.
Well,
it's a part of who I am.
I know.
It's a part of my personality at this point.
Yeah, and you'd probably be disowned from the family, too.
Well, that's another thing. Yeah, I don't think my parents would cut me out of the will. I mean, be pretty bad.
So there you go. That's little Rhett getting his first. I mean, he's a part of the family now. I mean, that's like the initiation.
Yeah, he's
that's
officially
like,
a part of it.
You'll forgive the term, but it's like the baptism of being in the Fowler family, right? Being able to handle coffee.
Just a little.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah, just a little something. Well, speaking of things that you should take seriously, coffee, but also health insurance. That's a big deal.
Absolutely.
We want to share a little bit with you about Pat Davis. Pat Davis is yourhealthplanman.com. That's yourhealthplanman.com. He has been a great friend to this podcast and a big supporter of us from day one. And something that Pat is really passionate about is making sure that you're back in control of your health care. I think oftentimes it can be frustrating feeling like you're just at the mercy of health insurance companies. Whatever cards they want to deal you, they do, and you just have to put up with it. But what Pat wants to do is make sure that you really have a plan that fits your family, fits your needs, and you can sometimes actually get paid to go to the doctor, which sounds too good to be true, I know.
No, it actually works because it's happened with me.
Yeah.
When I went to a doctor's appointment, I had a $76 bill up front. Okay, I wrote a check for that. Then when they sent it into the insurance company, I got a $180 check. So you do the math on that. I
Right.
came out ahead. How many times has that happened to you? How many times have you gone to the hospital or to a doctor's visit and said, I can't wait to get my bill? Because you're
Never.
going to
Yeah.
never. I can't wait to get my bill because I'm going to get a check.
Yeah.
So it's one of those experiences that you think, like you said, too good to be true. But honestly, it's not. Check with Pat. Find out exactly how true it is and how it can work for you and your family. And again, if you sit down with him and after a few minutes of going through everything, you said, I don't know if this is for us right now. Hey, no harm, no
Yeah,
foul.
no worries.
Yeah, but be sure and contact him because he can help. He can provide you customized health care for you and your family that, like Bethany says, put you back in control of your health care. And isn't that what we want? We
Yeah.
want to be able to kind of call the shots and not have it dictated to us.
Yeah, and just make good decisions for you and your family. That's what it's all about.
YourHealthPlanMan.com is the website. YourHealthPlanMan.com. Check with Pat today.
Well, this episode, we want to kind of take a look back at 2020 and what this year has held for all of us. It's been a weird year. It's been a crazy year for sure. I think all of us have had just different experiences. It's been kind of a year of just a lot of adjusting and just kind of a new normal and what is life going to look like. I think a lot of people have found themselves feeling just like on their head, just not knowing what to do next. And it's been crazy. A lot of people have dealt with job losses and just different situations like that, really, really hard things. But what we wanted to do with this episode is kind of take a positive look at things. And when we were talking about this episode and just planning it out, I think we both thought, this will be a little fluffy. Like we're going to get some fluffy answers of people like, oh, well, I'm just glad that I have this or whatever, and kind of more lighthearted things. And that's the one thing that surprised us a little bit is the seriousness of these answers of why people thought 2020 was a good year, even in the midst of all of this hard stuff going on.
Yeah, we got several responses. We threw it out to our folks on Patreon, and man, they came back with some really, really incredible answers. Like, we'll start with Richard. This one's hard. In 2018, my eldest daughter moved out of the house to go live with her mother. Our relationship had been strained due to her rebellion and my being preoccupied outside the home. So for 2 years, we had a strained relationship. To her, I was the enemy. However, I continued to pray for her and would regularly call and text her and tell her that I loved her. When life didn't go the way she planned, she began to turn to me for help and support. This year, our relationship hit a high point. We talk regularly. She's not made the decision to live her life for Jesus, but she has come to recovery meetings at church. Richard's very involved with Celebrate Recovery, which is a big ministry here in North America, for those of you listening around the world. And he says, this is fun, she's unblocked me from social media. I'm still praying.
That's huge.
Yeah, I'm still praying for things to get better, but I'm grateful for the change that we've seen.
That's awesome.
It really is. And boy, that really just took it a whole different direction than what I thought when I first thought we were going to do this. Because I thought, well, we'll just have some kind of little lighthearted stuff. But to have a relationship restored like this, even in the midst of all of this, I mean, again, when I hear things like that, sometimes you think these bad things that happen, quote unquote bad, turn out to be so good. I mean, could it be that we have gone through this pandemic for Richard and his daughter to be able to come back together?
Yeah.
I mean, that sounds crazy and that sounds a little too out there. But
I don't think it is, though. I think that the Lord has used even something as terrible as this pandemic and as difficult as it has been. I think God uses all things for good, and there are good things that have come out of this. The pandemic itself is not good, obviously, but I think the Lord has used this year and this year of just uncertainty and change and difficulty, even for something like that, to restore a relationship. And that's what's encouraging is even in the midst of all of this craziness, I think people are still seeing God is at work and he's doing different things and he's restoring relationships. And that's encouraging. I love that.
Here's another one. This is from your father-in-law, Jerry.
Yeah.
He said, through this pandemic, I've seen and heard many churches that have realized just how much man-centered they were and sought his forgiveness. I'm now seeing pastors let go of their programs and man-centered ideas that once led the church and now is being replaced by what I call the getting back to the basics of preaching and teaching the Word of God. Yeah, I think that has been a big turnaround this year because I think for so long we've kind of, in our especially American evangelical kind of settings, we've just kind of coasted a lot of times, and we have done things that have been easy. Let's do the things that maybe don't take stands, but things that will reach out to quote unquote more people.
Kind of an entertainment mindset.
Almost an entertainment mindset.
Yeah.
Exactly. And this whole pandemic has shaken that up
Yeah.
and really has caused a lot of Christians to really reevaluate, which I think is good. And I hope that continues. And I know our pastor has said that he's seen statistics that say 25% of your congregation is not going to come back.
Yeah.
Just not going to happen
Yeah.
after the pandemic's over. For whatever the reason, they're just not going to come back. And you wonder if that's good or bad. Is that a sifting kind of?
Well, that's the exact word that my father-in-law has used before, because we've had a lot of conversations, and he's talked with just so many pastors in this community. My father-in-law is a pastor, and so he's good friends with all kinds of different pastors of different denominations and has spoken with them. And that's what he's described it as. He said, honestly, I think this is a sifting within the church, kind of making everyone realize like what's actually important. Because if we're just getting together to be entertained and to feel good and to be told like all the things that we want to hear, and to not really hear the truth of God's word and not hear the gospel, why are we doing church? Like, what's the point if we're not gathered together to worship the Lord and to know his word even more and to be taught? I think he's said, he's like, it's just made everybody realize what are the important things about church and what's essential.
Mm-hmm. I wonder about this. Just trying to take a step back and see the kind of the big bird's eye view. What if God has allowed this pandemic to come in to kind of do what we're talking about, to kind of sift away those Christians who maybe aren't in it for the right reasons, and to encourage those of us that are to really get back into the game so that, okay, we're all kind of together now and we're not able to reach the lost as easily right now because of the pandemic, right? We can't go to gatherings. We're not able to interact like we normally do, right? What if this pandemic has caused us to kind of close circle, get back to the basics like Jerry was talking about, and then when the pandemic is over, we go out and do our job like we're supposed to. You know, maybe. Yeah. I don't know. That's just something that's crossed my mind.
Well, and I think just for me personally, it's just made me realize like how much I've taken church just for granted, because church has always been a part of my life. I've always gone to church. I don't ever recall a time where my family skipped, without like a legitimate, we're running a 104 fever. Okay, I guess we won't go to church, that kind of thing. But it's made me realize how I've just normalized church. If it's a part of my routine, I go every Sunday, I go Wednesday. That's my routine. And it's made me realize like, wow, when you can't go to church or when church just looks really different, like it makes you evaluate. This is important. We need church and we need community and we need to be together, as a body. Like that's important. And I think I had just not thought about it, before. So in some ways I'm grateful that I've been just awoken to this truth of like, okay, church is super important and I've completely taken it for granted.
Here's another one. This comes in from John, and John was our very first patron way back in the day. He says, I'm not sure if this helps, but I thought, and he puts in caps, really hard on this. And I found that despite all that has not gone well this year, personally and professionally, I'm actually in a better place than last year. This time last year, I was trying to figure out why I didn't get my last unemployment check and stressing about getting the 7-year-old what she wanted for Christmas. This year, after a lot of changes to my personal life and a lot of setbacks professionally, I'm still stressing about the 8-year-old and what she wants for Christmas, but that's because she wants too much stuff. And then he says, everything else has worked out okay, maybe not to my liking, but okay. And even if I've lived through a very, this little, it's not worded well, even if I've lived through every, it's not basically he's not saying if it's not great through all these years, every year has been great in retrospect. Then he says, while I will never be the shout it from the rooftops herald for the faith, I definitely don't discourage it because I do ultimately have a pretty solid belief. But with the string of life events that I've been through in these past 6 years and the weird effect the current political climate is having on me mentally, my faith in general and my general faith in humanity has been in serious lack until I thought about this question, and it's really helped me.
That's
so,
good.
Yeah, it's really pretty good.
Huh.
Because I think when you start talking about really the nitty gritty of life, like John was talking about, I mean, that made me kind of step back and realize, 2020 for us has not been the best year either.
Yeah.
It goes back really to 2019 when you and I were together on the radio. I was making the most money I've made in my career, right?
Yeah.
And then the morning show gets broken up. I lose my job. And what savings we had to run through a lot of it, And I was working not one full-time job, but like 4 part-time jobs most of this year. And we decided to launch this podcast and feeling like God's leading us this way. And then I'm thinking, but God, okay, I want to really want to start a business in a pandemic.
Yeah.
I mean, is that really the smartest thing in the whole
yeah.
world? But I kept feeling like that's where he's leading us to do. And I'm thinking, shouldn't I be making, a more commitment to another job so that I could provide for my family and the whole thing? And I've wrestled a lot with those kind of things. And I can't say that 2020 has been the greatest year for us. Now, like I was saying, we haven't missed any meals. We haven't missed any, time to have a roof over our head or anything like that. But it has been a struggle for us. Now, the flip side of that coin is we're at a point in our lives where we don't have a whole lot of bills, which is phenomenal. But yet, we still have some,
Yeah.
And so it's been difficult. It really has. And it's been faith stretching for us this year because it's like, what is God trying to tell us in this? In this whole thing, the pandemic as a kind of general thing, but also me losing my job. And what are we trying to do? My wife is like, should I go get a job outside the home, a more full-time job outside the home, or continue doing what I'm doing? We've had all these different things going on, and I don't know that we know an answer.
Yeah.
I don't know that God has revealed himself. Okay, here's what I have for you. I think all we can do is what we've been doing. It's just one day at a time. And I know that sounds kind of trite.
Yeah.
But really, I don't know what else to do.
Well, and that's what you need to do in any life stage. I mean, especially in times like this, but I think just as a whole, I feel like as Christians, that's something that we are called to, is just to live by faith and go one step at a time. And not saying, be irresponsible, don't plan for the future. I'm not saying that, but I think, that scripture talks about it of not saying, oh, in a year we'll go here and we'll do this and this will happen, but really saying, if the Lord wills it, we'll do this, and kind of living from that mindset of living, with structure and preparing and planning and being responsible with finances and how the Lord has gifted us and given to us, but also not just planning out your whole life and saying, oh God, I guess if you can come along for the ride, sure. But rather living from a point of, Lord, okay, this is your money, this is your home, this is your family. It's not my life, it's yours, and let your will be done, and just follow in that mindset, which is hard to do. And I'm not saying like, oh, I figured it out, so here's the secret, just do this, because that's still something I'm struggling with and working through. But I think that should be the goal. It
should be the goal. And it's so difficult to turn the reins of control over, because that's really what it gets down to.
Right.
But that's what we're called to do. That's what we're supposed to do every day. And I do, because I fall into the trap, which I shouldn't do. I know I look at people my age and I think, from the outside looking in, their life is so much better. They're at a point in their career, they're making so much more money than I am, and they have so many more nice things for, not just for things, but things for their family. You know, I don't care about having all the great stuff, but boy, I would like to spoil my wife and my kids, you know, and I don't have that. And so I kind of feel bad about myself. What am I doing wrong? Why can't I have that? Why, you know, and I realize the focus all of a sudden is back on me. And it's like, well, God, why can't this happen? And I don't know the reason why. All I know is I'm in the position that I'm in, and I've got to just keep on doing what I'm supposed to do. And hopefully, you know, something will change. But, you know, my wife is always the one to say, you know, I don't think we could handle money. If we were if we were to win the lottery, we'd probably be one of those people that would blow it all, you know?
Wouldn't know what to do with it.
And not on frivolous things, but probably giving it away to everybody that came across our path, you know, and not having anything to show for it at the end. So I don't know. Maybe we're not, and my wife thinks we're not cut out to have money. But anyway, the point is, I think God has a plan for all of us, and it is so hard to just take that control and give it to him. But man, that's what we got to do. Well,
and really, like what we've talked about on the podcast about you losing your job and what you learned through that job loss, I think that's part of your story, and that's something that God has used in your life to encourage people. I mean, the response that we got after we released that episode was so amazing. So many people coming out and saying, okay, this is really encouraging. I just lost my job. I needed to hear this. And I think that's just proof again that no matter what we go through in life, you know, it sifts through God's hands first. There's a reason behind it, and there's a plan behind it. And so even in those moments where we go through something where we're like, I don't understand, God, like, what are you doing? Why am I going through this? We have to believe and we have to trust that there's a reason and a purpose behind all of it.
Yeah, so as we're starting 2021, all we can do is encourage you to keep on keeping on. I don't know that we have any kind of great words of wisdom from on high to say, okay, here's the best way to handle the situation. Here's the best way to handle what's going on in your life. We've
not reached the pinnacle.
No, we haven't. We haven't. But we can say we're fellow journeyers with you in this. We're taking one step at a time. Maybe we're a little further down the road than you are, or maybe you're a little further down than than the two of us are. But we're on that same path. And we're going to be praying for you. You pray for us as we continue down, trying to figure out what God has for us and the way God's working, and just kind of continue to follow his path.
Well, we want to let you know about something that we've been doing for the past couple months, but we want to bring it into the new year and keep on doing it. It's called Tees for Bibles. All you have to do is go to stephenbethany.com. There's a little banner there. Click on Tees for Bibles. You can scroll through all of the different T-shirt designs that we have. There's a bunch of different options. Find one you like, and when you buy it, the proceeds from that are going to go to help buy a Bible for someone who doesn't have it. You mentioned the statistic, and I couldn't believe it, but around the world, 90% of believers don't have a Bible, a completed Bible in their own language, which is just insane to me. But we want to kind of help bridge that gap. And so Tees for Bibles is doing that.
Absolutely. So when you purchase a shirt, you are putting the Bible in the hands of somebody who desperately wants one.
Yeah.
Can you imagine trying to live the Christian life without a Bible?
Yeah, that's a huge part of it.
Exactly. I mean, it's God's word to us, and our brothers and sisters around the world don't have access to it, but we can change that by simply buying a T-shirt. So yes, please go to stephenbethany.com and check out all the different designs that we have, and make your purchase. Make 10, however many you buy, equals the number of Bibles sent.
This would be a really cool thought, I just thought of it, but a cool idea for maybe a church to get involved in, like a youth group or something. If your youth group likes listening to the podcast, maybe buy a bunch of T-shirts. Even more Bibles will be sent out. So
I ain't
just
mad
a thought.
at it.
Just do it.
That's a great
You ain't
idea.
mad at it?
No, I ain't mad at it. That's a great
Go
idea.
ahead, whatever.
That's a great idea. And speaking of that, we also want to say thanks to all of our patrons that have joined us this year as we've gotten started with the podcast. Boy, you guys are amazing and awesome, and we thank you for your support. It's a crowdfunding deal where you go online, and we have a couple of different levels of support, but we have developed such a great community of friendships, of people praying for one another. We're looking real forward at some point in 2021, Lord willing, we're going to be able to have a big get-together where everybody gets to come together and share a meal and just have a really good time. But for your support, you get bonus episodes, you get video conference calls with us. We're going to be kicking that up again real soon. You get T-shirts, you get all kinds of fun stuff. And really, when you start thinking about what the mission is that we're trying to do,
Yeah.
you become a part of it.
Well, really,
you know?
yeah. Like I like the word that you used earlier of just a community of friends, because that's really what it is. And it's people that not only support us and keep the lights on and
Right.
allow us to keep on doing this podcast, but they really are a big part of the team and allow us to keep on encouraging people and just growing together and growing in faith and just learning about the Lord even more. So
Yeah.
that's been fun to see.
The link is in the show notes,
Mm-hmm.
or you can go to patreon.com/Stephen Bethany's Hopecast, and you can see everything there. So we're really excited about that. Looking forward to seeing that grow as we move
Mm-hmm.
along through 2021. And coming up, speaking of those of you on Patreon, you're going to get an aftercast. This video, I think, is a beautiful way of closing out the year.
Okay.
It will put a smile on your face. It'll make you just go,
I haven't
okay.
seen this, so I'm excited about this.
I think it's really worth the time. So we'll get to that here in just a second. But again, we want to say to everybody who's downloaded, everybody who's told someone about the podcast, everyone who has hit that subscribe button. Thank you so much.
Yeah, you guys are amazing. We could not do this without you. Is there anything else we need to hit?
No, other
Episode
than
34?
No, other than I think we're praying for you. Keep
Mm-hmm.
praying for us, and I just am fired up about 2021. I think we're going to have a fantastic year.
I think so. We'll see you next year.
Very good.
Was that cheesy?
That was very cheesy, but that's good. That was good. Good night, Olive Branch.